Hello and welcome to episode 89 of our SAP on Azure video podcast. Today is April 21st, and together with Robert and Goran, we are here to talk about anything related to SAP and Microsoft. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So in the past, a lot of customers have started their high availability installations on Azure using availability sets. With the help of availability zones, an SLA of 99.99 can be reached. So for customers that have already deployed with AvSets, it might be interesting to migrate from sets to zones. Goran has created a blog post and some additional information on how to do this. And today he will show us and talk a little about more details how and what you can do with this. But as always, we'll quickly take a look at some of the news from this week, and it's not a lot this week, but actually Martin Merdes has created a video about his RGCopy tool. So we talked about this sometime back on the show. This is a tool that is available on GitHub, so all the scripts are there, that allows you to copy an SAP system that is deployed in one resource group to another environment, to another resource group. And in this video, he guides you through all the steps where you can get the RGCopy tool, the idea behind it, how to call it, the different parameters that you can use it. So it's a really nice 20-minute video that walks you through the usage of the RGCopy tool. So I think it's definitely worth checking it out. The next thing that I want to highlight, and I think we mentioned that also on the show, there was an event called Microsoft Business Application Launch Event, where Charles Lamanna and a few others talked about Dynamics 365 Power Platform. So there's nothing about SAP here, but you can watch it again on demand. And if you take a look at this, there are some really cool things of how the Power Platform can be used to enhance and extend Dynamics 365 scenarios, how you can use this to integrate in Teams and in other Office products. And I actually think if you look at this, and if you just maybe replace Dynamics with SAP and see what possibilities, what opportunities there are if you would connect the Power Platform with your SAP system, I think that this is really, there are some really fantastic ideas behind this. So if you want, it's like a 1.5 hour session, but you can also increase the playback time, playback speed to 1.5 or whatever. So I think if you want to take a look at this and just run through the event, I think it's definitely worth watching and getting some cool ideas of what you can do if you use the Power Platform together with Dynamics 365, or obviously also with an SAP system. So highly recommend to take a look at this. Good, and with this, we're actually already at the blog post from Goran. And instead of me going through the blog post, maybe Goran, let's hand it over directly to you, and you can guide us through this and share a little more insights on why you have done this and what's the good thing about it, and how customers can use it.
Yeah. So let's maybe why I did it, because people are asking for it. So I mean, again, story, it's with availability set, as you mentioned, we have 99.95. All the components are in. We already have a high availability system, but they are inside of one data center, right? So if you move to the zones, and by the way, all those names are really, I have it in a demo, I recorded the videos, names of the VMs and the load balancer and PPGs, they are the same. So just maybe pay attention, yeah. So, but basically when we go to the zones, we have 2 data centers, so much higher SLAs definitely on the infrastructure side. Now, if you're a new customer going directly to the zone, no problem, new deployment. But if you are already existing customer, question is how to move it. So we had a lot of question how to do it, how to migrate it, how to minimize the downtime. And we have really a customer use case. So I'm just not mentioning name because we are still not publish their names yet. But basically, that's a concrete big customer. They estimated in order to do a classical migration to the zone, meaning you need to provide a new infrastructure, then you need to do a homogeneous system copy. It will take them 6 months. Now, another idea is use third-party installer or any other installer, which typically many are offering, let's say, also only for the HANA, but not for the other databases. But even for the HANA, that would estimation was reduce the downtime to 2 months. But still, you need to do a certain post configuration stuff, and you would also have some kind of license cost as well. Now, basically, with the scripts, they could do it just over the weekend, so to say.
Cool.
And they could also do it because script is moving one by one VM, and because you are in an HA, you can do in a rolling fashion, meaning, okay, move one database, passive database VM to the zone. The active one is live, do a database failover, then move the node one of the, and so on and so forth, right? So basically, it's okay, script should help to simplify the procedure and minimize downtime. And there's also a white paper, you'll put it there, which also basically discuss a bit about re-architecturing, meaning, I don't know, replace the NFS cluster, which is an infrastructure solution with a PaaS service like Azure File Shares in the zones. So, I mean, you don't need to manage it, and which is basically a separate step, okay. Now, important is just to mention that the supported storage is managed disk, so typically premium. We don't have support for ANF because ANF is at the moment not possible to move from zone to the zone, and Ultra has also a kind of limited possibilities. So meaning for those, if they have an ANF or Ultra, there should be probably some kind of additional steps in order to move those storage in a proper zone, right? But many are using the managed disk. They are kind of happy with the price performance ratio, so it will cover many of them. The point is there are two sets of, let's say, commandlet. One is the move AZVM to Azure Zone. So typically you would use it for the database, central source, file share cluster if you would use it, which are really the zonal VMs. Okay, and so it enables you, it converted the virtual machine from a regional VM, which is an availability set, to the zonal VM, but you can also use to move it from one zone to another zone. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the customer would use it because they have an M series, let's say they would deploy in zone 1 and 2, which are a bit far away. They can't do for the 3 because some M series queue is not yet there. Once it will come there, they want to move from zone 3 to zone 2 to zone 3 just to get closer. So they can use the same basic script to do it, which I would show you. And for the application server, what we typically say, maybe just go back to the picture. Typically, I mean, ideally would be that app servers are not zonal VM, although they can do it. The customer can do it, but they are also an availability set. And the reason is in availability set, there are multiple fault on update domains. You have at least 2 and more of them, but they are not zonal VM. And then we use PPG to bound it to the correct zone indirectly. So, but here, when we move to the zone, we will have 2 new availability set and 2 new PPG. So that's the basically idea. And maybe one new stuff. The another commandlet is for those app servers. There is another command used, move AZVM to availability set. So which would move just basically from one availability set to another one, which would be now a kind of indirectly zonal one. But also, I just added, this is new after some discussion with Robert. I didn't document in month. You can move from zone back to the region, meaning back to the availability set. And some customer ask is just as a kind of, they want a safety nets if something would not go well with the zone. In their opinion, they want ability to go back. Okay, so I added there this possibility too. Right.
I think what is very important to add to that, I think, is probably already known. But you know, the migration to zone, to outside the zone, back to availability set, it's free of charge. There's no additional cost for that from customers, so they are free to decide. Okay, do they want to use availability set or availability zone? I think it's just to add that information on top of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I thought, okay, let's do some kind of demo. Otherwise, it's just too boring. So maybe let's start with the onboarding, right? Onboarding of the infrastructure. So I tried to make this is a GitHub quick document. We will have it on a link, and basically says you need a PowerShell 7 environment, and also you need an AZ module. So I thought, okay, let me do a quick win and use it the Azure. The Azure CloudShell. I mean, maybe it's not ideal. It would be better to have a desktop version because the CloudShell can have a timeout, but at least it speeds up here. I don't have to install PowerShell and I don't have to install the AZ module. They're already there, so the proper volume is there. I did this PowerShell actually a module I developed, which is deployed in the PowerShell gallery, similar like all my other Microsoft AZ module. You can find it. It goes actually looking for the across the network. You need to have some network connection. Come on, okay, and it says yes, there is an. You see, it's in PowerShell gallery. It's also they're available, and then you just say, okay, now please install it. Yeah, install it. So I'm just copying it.
Cool.
One question, Goran, when you install this model in this CloudShell, is this subscription based, tenant based, or this module?
It's a good question. It's definitely it is in that subscription.
Okay. I never tried.
No, it's in my tenant. It's in my tenant. Yeah.
Okay.
It has a user. Actually, it's a Linux in behind, right? It is in my user subfolder, I believe. Okay.
Okay.
So now I just import it and we are ready to go. And I just put it a lot of kind of help there, so for the people, sometimes they even read it, which is great. I'm also positively with example how to do it and then. So, okay, so that would be a kind of quick for the onboarding, but let's go back just quickly to the picture and let me just take one example of the one VM, zonal VM. Let's say PR1 Central Services 2 VM, right, which is in a Central Services cluster, and I want to move it from this availability set. I want to move it to the zone. I mean, this story is same for the other central services. For database VM would be basically the same, right? Just not to to repeat. So that would be to the zone 2. Yeah. Okay. So this VM is already, it's a non-zonal VM. It's already configured with the load balancer, by the way. It's already there because it's an HA system as well. It has one OS disk and one data disk. So I'm just telling, okay, move this VM, put it in a zone 2, and then also I'm using, it's already pre-configured with the load balancer, and put it into this new PPG. So PPG in the zone 2, I have then 2 PPGs, and I said, okay, keep the same disk names, right? And I'm using here also force parameter, not to be asked, do you really want to stop the VM? Are you really sure you want to delete the VM? Now, script is basically what is important is doing a lot of pre-checks. So I don't know, does the PPG exist? Is the PPG already associated with the correct, is there a load balancer? Is the load balancer also standard load balancer? And then make sure that when I delete the basic procedure is here, the move in, I need to create a new disks because I'm moving from regional to the zonal. I need to create a new disks, which are then the zonal disks. And the way how to do it is basically to create the disk snapshot, and out of snapshot is I create a new zonal disk. In this case, zonal 2 disks, OS disk and data disk. Then I have to delete the VM, and then I have to recreate the VM, and then I'm just in the correct zone. In this case, zone 2. And then I'm passing the newly created zonal disks, right? Important here is that all disks will not be deleted, or at least I would make a copy of them, right?
You always have a fallback.
Exactly. So if something breaks, and it can always break, and break could because let's say there is no enough capacity there, and these kind of thing, unfortunately, I can't check it, right? So what is super important, just before you execute, anybody would execute on a prod system, which is not a joke, you know, test it on the dummy VMs, which are ideal in the same subscription, same resource group, same VM type, same disk sizes, disk setup, same target zone, and then right. So just to make sure that it kind of works, right? Now here, let me just here it will start to do a snapshotting of the disk and creating of the disks, so to say. It would look, yeah, just what is the free name, and at certain point of time there would be also need to delete the old disk, because I said keep the old disk, but there would be already copied, right? So it's not a problem. And after some time, the VM creation is done or recreation is done. So if I would go to the VM and to check it, I just specified I want to go to the zone 2. So I just need to do, I think, refresh sometimes few times more. And
to refresh the page, actually, I tested this.
I need, or sometimes the page, or you do it like me, like fast forward. You know? So then you see the VM is in availability zone 2, right? And if I click on the disk, so the disk name are the same names, because I choose this, keep the same disk name, otherwise they would be different. And they are also in the zone 2. And what is important, that the old disk, they have a dash orange, maybe some numbers, they are still like the old one. So initially was non-zonal disk, and they are still stay the same, which means those disks can be used to restore the VM to the original state if something goes wrong, right? And if you go to the load balancer, which is already was pre-configured, that VMs are already there, and basically you don't have to change anything. I mean, this, let's say for one disk was 1 terabyte, it took some 3-4 minutes, so to say. Typically it goes relatively fast, I would say, right?
Goran, was there anything that you needed to do on the SAP system before the start, or would you do this in, I mean, while the system is running? I mean, that's theoretically.
So, yeah, so basically one customer decided, they said, okay, we can get total downtime over the weekend, so they completely shut it down.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Is their choice. But if they would love to do in a rolling manner, they would do one by one. So meaning, let's say they start with a database VM, node 2.
The passive one.
Passive one, they would move this, you know. So the active one is still in the availability set, is up and running, serving. SAP system is up and running. So the VM will be moved, node 2 of the database will be moved to the zone 2, for example. When it comes up and running, joins the cluster, then you would do failover, manual failover of the database, which is typically fast, from node 1 to node 2. So basically from all the availability set to the new zone, to the VM in the new zone. The database is up and running. It's a very short, might be maybe some downtime of it, but very short, maybe less than a minute. I mean, depends. And then the database node 1 is passive. And then you would use a script to move the database passive node to the zone 1, right? And then when it's up and running, your database layer is moved, and you do the same procedure for the central service, right? So meaning,
sorry, and I think the important thing is when you do this move, things like the IP address, they don't change. So that's
they
why
don't change.
You
so
don't
nothing
need to
change.
reconfigure. No. Yeah, exactly.
Okay. No. So this is nice because I'm just reattaching the existing NIC cards, and all the settings are the NIC card, and all the load balancer configuration are associated with the NIC cards. So that's at least in this part was nice. It's easy. It's meaning, but this was the wish of the customer. So meaning, nice that you showed from the Martin block. His use case is a copy, meaning he would copy into new. He wouldn't delete anything. So that makes sense if you do testing, or maybe if you move it makes sense also for the prod system if you want to move to another region or maybe another subscription. But here in this use cases, they just want to have the same, everything same subscription, same resource group, same VM name, same disk, same IP addresses, everything is the same, but just move to the zones, right? So that's the kind of covering this use case, right? So okay, so that was basically a move to the zone. And let me say, if you would do with if we talk about the application server, the app server, for example, this one of them, which is an availability set in one PPG, you would, let's say, move to another PPG, which is a zonal one, and it has a PPG in zone 1, another PPG, and through this it will be bound indirectly to the zone. So in this context, then you would use, exactly. So this is the app server, and app server is a regional VM. It has also, I believe, 2 disks, and it's inside of the availability set. Yeah, this one, availability set. And what we will do is actually move to new availability set, which is already prepared, which is availability set for the zone 1. And this availability set is currently empty, and it's configured to use the new PPG for the zone 1.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So I need to prepare availability sets and PPG also. So your
Correct.
tool is creating that. Okay.
No, it's not just, but there is also should be some examples in the help file how to do it through the PowerShell, for example, right? Okay. And the tool is now doing also a lot of. So basically, what it's doing in this case, because still the VM will be a regional VM. Did I click something? There is no need to do a disk snapshot. So basically, only the VM will be, or VM definition will be deleted, and the existing regional disk would be just reattached. Mm-hmm. Right. So okay, that's also a bit easier to do it. But the script is also doing some checking about if the availability set, there is, and it is configured with the proper PPG, for example, right? And then it goes into it will stop the VM, of course, before it's doing anything. And let me just do the fast forward. It will delete the VM, and it will also recreate VM, create again with the existing disks. And when it's done, basically, let me just do again the VM part. The only what would change is actually disk are still there. They are the same disk names, right? What is being changed, that the availability set is now changed. This is the zonal 1 availability set, and you see that it's already it was empty. You have the VM there, right? So this is the basic part. And again, I mentioned if you want to what customer sometimes wants to move from one zone to another zone, right? And let's say I want to move this PR1. Actually, no, this is the move from move back. So I want to move back to the availability set. So let's say I haven't deleted anything, so to say. So I want to move to the old PR1 ASCS availability set with one PPG. In that context, basically just moving back. So I'm just, so I'm here with the Central Services 2. It's currently in the zone 3. Actually, I also moved from zone 2 to the zone 3. So it is in the zone 3 at the moment. And I want to move to the old previous existing availability set, which is empty at the moment. And it's configured with the old PPG, which was used for the old VMs at that time, right? So then I'm just using the same move to availability set, and I'm just specifying, so to say, okay, I'm telling keep the same disk names. So here, the point is I also have to have the same game with the snapshotting. So I need to create a snapshot. Out of snapshot, I'm creating a new non-zonal disks, because the VM is non-zonal. and then I delete the VM and I'll recreate the VM with the new non-zonal disks, right? So similar, just process, just kind of basically other way around. So it's also doing those snapshot and creating of the disks. So I will just do a bit fast forward. So yes, I'll just do just a second. Yeah, so this is newly created VM, and you can't find any more information about zone, but now it is in a proximity placement group. And when I check the disk, let's say the OS disk, the disk name is the same, but the availability zone is none, right? Because it's a non-zonal, it's a regional VM, right? And all the previous disk, which was actually in the zone 3, yes, they are just copied and they are still there for any kind of recovery if that would be needed, right? So I think that would be, yeah, that would be all with the demo. I mean, what is important, definitely is super important, it's to do the testing, really to do the testing, because you never know what can go wrong on a prod system. And use the backup. Excellent. Use the backup. Yeah, even better. Even better. Use the backup anyway. Use the backup, but then also create the dummy VMs, ideally with the same setup, same resource group, same as much as possible. Test it on them on a desired target zone where you want it, and when you see it works, then execute it on the real one.
So
if it fails.
Yeah, go on.
No.
So, I mean, what is the beauty? A customer can actually, what the Goran mentioned, can use the same VMs, but they don't need to have SAP inside.
Yes.
So they can just simply test VMs to move them and see is everything working, because there's no difference what is running inside.
Yeah.
Actually, also,
true. Just for a fun.
Yes.
It was boring life, So I put it a third commandlet. I don't have a demo. I put a third commandlet, which is for the moving of application servers into the new availability set, which would be in a zonal context. But that commandlet would do more. It would it will get this SAP status of the subsystem. It will send the soft shutdown to the application server, whatever you specified in commandlet. So it would wait, I don't know if it's 30 minutes, it will wait for the 30 minutes to unload the users and wait for the bad jobs. When it stops, it will continue. It will then do the normal stuff, meaning stop the VM, delete it, recreate it in the new availability set, and then we'll start the application server and we'll get the status. So I reuse this from this start stop, for example. So that was just a bit more for a fun. Customer do not need to use project. It. I mean, maybe they would love, they would love to do more kind of manual way, but important is also this rolling possibility to have it, to do it one by one and really avoid the downtime. And many bigger customers use it, so we got some feedback, improve some stuff. I want this, I want that. It's not 100%. Nothing is sure. Again, test it. But generally, I'm quite confident it's very reliable, so to say.
Yeah, and I mean, I could imagine some very basic mistakes, that you don't have requested a quota
for example,
a certain
right?
series in this region or in this specific zone or something like that, and then it failed. So I like the idea of just doing this with a dummy virtual machine. Just spin up an M series and then try to move this over.
Right.
But I can definitely see the value of this for customers, because as you said, or as we said in the beginning, a lot of customers started with availability sets simply because these M series were not yet available in all the zones, and now you want to benefit from the zonal deployment. I also like this, that you can actually move it back, that if you find out that, well, the zonal deployment doesn't work for whatever reason, that you can go back to availability sets. So
correct, or move from one zone to another zone, so to say. Again, so that's also an important use case. so to say. Yeah. The only stuff what they would need to do it on the SAP system is to install the new license. Simply because
once
the
it's
license,
moved,
the license in the NetWeaver system is bound to the central services. Assumption is here you would have a 2-node cluster for the central service, meaning you would have a two licenses. You have to have it anyway, always. When you recreate the VM, the virtual machine ID is changed. So this is how we are checking. And because the SAP license is bound to the VM ID key, that license will be changed. So meaning you moved one ASCS 2, okay, that license is changed, but still it's not a problem for the primary node, which is up and running. You get the new hardware key for the node 2, you install it, you do a failover to the new node, which is now with the new license, and you do the same game on with the first one. Yeah, meaning again, no downtime, but you have to do this because, yeah, it's.
But do I need to do it immediately, or isn't there a 30-day temp license then installed?
That's a good point. On the ABAP, it's 30 days. In Java, they are more hard there. In Java, they would let you run for hour or two, something like this, and they will shut down this.
Okay, but I think you make a good point. Since I do this step by step, if I first migrate or move maybe the passive system, so to say, then I would start it up. I would install the license, or I would install the license. Then everything is fine again, and then only would I do the other one. So
correct. Cool. So then it's no problem. No issues there. No issues there. So yeah. So I would say this is already out for months there. So.
And you have tested it with a lot of customers already?
I tested it. They use it quite a lot. So you never know what can run, but generally I would say it's quite stable. It's quite stable. Yeah, cool. So far with the experience. So
I think that's perfect.
We saved time and money and downtime because typically, even if you do homogeneous migration, it's still a complicated process. It's a project. It's officially 6 months project, and it's money, time, and then so here it's easier. Yeah. Okay.
Great. No, thanks. I think that was a great overview for when you want to move from availability sets to zones, or from zones to zones. So I think this is certainly valuable for a lot of customers that have started early with SAP on Azure, that have deployed this with availability sets, and now they have a fantastic tool to do this, to move to zones. Great. Then I think today we have a shorter episode, but I'm sure next time will be longer again. But these shorter ones are actually pretty good, I think. So
I love it.
Perfect. Good. Then thank you, everyone. Talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.